Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfers news this morning as Ten Hag receives a job boost as Tuchel looks like he might snub any opportunity to become Manchester United manager. Also, United and INEOS, well probably more INEOS, are focusing on outgoings. Their transfer summer, transfer hit list, transfer summer is ready to go. Got a little bit on Sancho and a few other bits as well, but predominantly INEOS need to sell to buy. So we'll be talking about that as well. But we've got an active poll going on at the moment, actually, and I think this is really important. I think it's really important. I don't know how many people have voted so far, but 84% don't want Tuchel as the Man United manager. And I just think that I remember saying this about Pochettino and Ten Hag a couple of years ago. Like, if you are a CEO or an owner of a football club, you can't listen to fans. But I think there's almost this world where you can't listen to fans about decisions about your football club. Well, it can't be the decision. But it has to be taken into account. You can't be appointing and signing. Look at Arnautovic. They didn't sign Arnautovic because of fan opinion. They didn't keep Greenwood because of fan and public opinion. You have to take it into account. And look, I'm not talking about Ten Hag in or Ten Hag out. I think the predominant majority are with keeping Ten Hag because they don't want to see a manager sacked. But Tuchel's not the answer. Even if you do sack Ten Hag, Tuchel's not the answer. So look, what is this news around Ten Hag and Tuchel? Well, look, this is coming in from Germany and it's coming in from Bayern Munich sources via @Postecoglou. Interestingly enough, Christian Falk, who's very close to Bayern Munich, said yesterday that Ten Hag is on the list for Bayern Munich. I mean, imagine the madness of us taking Tuchel and they take Ten Hag. That's just weird. But look, anything can happen in football. But this is the latest coming out of Bayern Munich. So if you want Thomas Tuchel, and a lot of people, I saw an article today with a load of journalists who majority were going for Tuchel. I mean, I don't rate the journalists, so it doesn't really matter. But the point is, there are people, I feel, naively exposing themselves. And I think as fans, you need to do better. But maybe we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk the news. This is from Germany. Bayern are considering old and new options after Rangnick's rejection. De Zerbi's been mentioned. But as always reported and hinted by himself today, Tuchel is ready to stay under certain circumstances. For the first time, this is an option and is no longer excluded by the board. He has friends within Bayern Munich who would like to see him play. And even people like Manuel Neuer have internally spoken in favour of Tuchel. The situation is complicated, a lot needs to happen, and it's said that possibly too much needs to happen. But today, Tuchel officially opened the door. Now it's up to the bosses. Let's see what happens. So, look, much the same as Alonso staying at Leverkusen and much the same as Xavi staying at Barcelona, it could well be that Tuchel stays at Bayern Munich. In which case, what is all this talk about him taking our manager's job? I mean, look, I will just say this. I personally think, and I've said it for a while, there are major holes in some United fans who want to sack Ten Hag because they've never answered the question. I remember this back in October. I mean, the incredible thing about the Ten Hag out movement is it's justified now, but it was never justifiable in October. Like, we literally just had a good season. We'd finished third in the league. We'd won a trophy. We started the season badly. And the Ten Hag movement started in October, which is just ridiculous. 3 months into the season, it started. So for me, it's always had a ridiculous, weird momentum around it, which never made any sense. But I remember saying in October, and I've said it ever since, the problem with the media move against Ten Hag and the problem with some of the fan movement against Ten Hag is they've never presented a decent alternative. They wander from one room to the next, begging that will be the answer, and then the door slams shut in their face. And with every door that slams shut in their face, their position is weakened. And what I mean by that is, I want Ten Hag out, the bold fraud, this, all this offensive and aggressive and obsessive and stubborn opinion that Ten Hag's not the guy, let's sack him. Everybody I've ever spoken to about this, whether it's involved in the United stand or externally, I go, fine. You respect the reasons why I don't want to sack the manager. No, but I'm telling you why. I don't believe sacking a manager again is the right thing to do. We need to clear out these players. You don't respect that. No, we need to get rid of the manager. Okay. Well, I respect your opinion. You're Ten Hag out. Okay. You don't respect mine, even though it's absolutely sound and based on fact. It's my opinion, though. You don't have to agree with it, but you should respect it because it makes sense. You want to sack Ten Hag because you don't think he's the right guy. All right, I'll respect that. It makes sense to you. Now tell me who's coming in. Oh, but. No, I'm not talking about Nicky Butt. I'm not talking about United's midfield in the 90s. I want to know who you are replacing Ten Hag with. Well, and all I've heard is very little, or Zidane, which has never been realistic, or De Zerbi, although they've shut up about him, or Nagelsmann, who actually was never going to come either, and now it's Tuchel, who is actually flirting with staying with Bayern Munich. So every manager that they want to replace with Ten Hag with, I listen to them less and less, because 2 months ago it was De Zerbi. What a disaster that would have been. 6 weeks ago it was Nagelsmann. He's staying at Germany. For the last 6 months it's been Zidane, who doesn't want to come here. And now it's Thomas Tuchel, who may or may not want to come here because he may or may not want to stay at Bayern Munich. So it just seems to me that not all, but some of the Ten Hag out movement is basically just begging on the streets. Oh, please, please. I'm like, oh, come on. We're Manchester United. I think we've got a project here. I'd rather see this out and go for a manager that actually, is decent in the future. But we'll have to wait and see how it sort of pans out. But look, it is a fact. We've been talking about it for months. I'm more than happy to have the conversation about replacing the manager. And who knows, Tuesday morning, we might be waking up to another embarrassing loss and that conversation will be more prominent again. But I still, in 6 months, have failed to be intrigued or even curious of one of these Ten Hag outers, of some of which will be in the chat, putting forward an alternative that intrigues me. It just, to me, seems very Real Madrid petulant in the sense of, let's boo Ronaldo, let's boo Casillas, I want a new shiny toy. Like, you can't hypothetically sack a manager and then wash your hands of who's going to come in. I've always said that. If you're a football fan, if I say I want to sell Rashford, then I know who I want to bring in, or I've got a plan for when he's gone. If I say I want to sell Varane, then I've got a plan for what I'm going to do. I don't just go, I'll get rid of him and then I'll trust somebody else to sort it out. What's the point? Like, if you want to sack Ten Hag, surely you've got an alternative. You can't just go, I've had enough of him, he's no good, but I'll trust the club to replace him. It's not my job. You've got to have an alternative. And I just think that, look, I have my opinions on Thomas Tuchel. I don't want to go over it, but he falls out with every club he ever goes to. He's, and I just find him quite unappealing. I always have. I've respected what he's done in the game. I thought, he really helped us out a couple of years ago, beating Chelsea and stopping them going for that treble the first time. But other than that, I've never really looked at him and thought, oh, that's the sort of guy for United. I might have said it in the past. We have been very, very desperate, but not now. Not now. Dad, do you think Tuchel has got good tactics, though, says Seb. We'll talk about it tomorrow. It'll be Ted Lasso next, says Steve Brown. Dan Watson says, always wanted Tuchel personally for a while. However, if Ten Hag stays, his future massively depends on how the board do in the next window. We'll talk about that, Dan. Why some United fans want Ten Hag out is past me, says Rub. Well, no, look, everyone's entitled to an opinion. There's no problem with that. It's not like it's been a great season. I don't mind people wanting to sack the manager. I think some of them are very obsessive about it. I think some of them are very toxic about it. And I think some of them are very aggressive about it to the extent that it's confusing. But then again, I think some people in the world are just very, very, very up their own arse and want to be proven right. I accept I want Ten Hag to stay, but if he did get removed, I'm not going to throw my toys out of the pram and start screaming and shouting. I'll just say I think it's a mistake and I think we might be back here in 2 or 3 years. Let's back the next manager. Ultimately, I don't have any say in it. Do you think Neville and the media lost against the fans with wanting Ten Hag to stay versus getting him sacked? Well, they've not lost yet, Alex. They haven't lost yet. Steve Brown says, I love the Eric Ten Hag interview with Neville. Oh, I've just remembered something. I should have said it in the intro. What an amazing comment by a current Premier League manager, which is absolutely the issue that United have got. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Mark, done that one. Steve Brown says, I love the Ten Hag interview with Neville. We need to keep him at all costs, and that's why Sancho doesn't want to return, as he knows he won't be able to, says Steve Brown. And Jay Rayner has gifted 5 memberships this morning as well. Give Jay a massive, massive shout out. Also, I don't normally get to do a Saturday night show with you. 8 o'clock tonight, I'm doing the show I was meant to do last night, which I'd put a lot of work into, and I was like, where the bloody hell am I going to get to do that? So basically, it's the 5 biggest issues INEOS and Ten Hag have got this summer, and if they don't solve these issues, I don't think they're going to sort any issues out at United. So looking forward to doing that with you, and you can bring your own, so give a think about it today. But look, if you're just tuning in, there is a possibility that Thomas Tuchel stays at Bayern Munich now. I say hallelujah. I hope it does happen. 82% of you do not want Thomas Tuchel at Man United. Why don't you want him, by the way? I mean, look, I know why I don't want him. It's not an agenda. It's not a hate. It's not an abuse. I just don't really feel like I want him as Man United manager. He just, I don't. It's a bit like Moyes. I just get a bad vibe from it. And I did back Moyes at the start, and Sir Alex was telling us to back David Moyes. I had a good feeling about Van Gaal. I had a good feeling about Mourinho. Obviously, I was on the hype with Ollie, and I had a good feeling about Ten Hag. But I just don't get it with Tuchel. I really don't get the feeling. I get that he's a good coach, but I don't get the feeling. And I think predominantly for me, it will be different for you lot, which is why I'd be interested. The big reason I don't want Tuchel is because he's somebody else's manager. Like, he's a Chelsea manager. He won the Champions League with Chelsea. That, to me, is a massive turn-off. I don't want a manager that's managed another Premier League club to major success, because he's a project then, isn't he? He's a project manager. He's already done a project at Chelsea. Let's get him to come and do a project at Man United. It would, would Liverpool appoint a Chelsea manager like Thomas Tuchel? No, because Liverpool, as much as they're our rival, I hate saying this, Liverpool run their football club far better than we do in the way that they get things done and about what they want to be. They won't go and appoint a manager that's done things for other clubs in the Premier League, because they want it to be Liverpool-centric. They want Liverpool to be the centre of the universe. And that's why they took Klopp, and that's how it worked there. Thomas Tuchel is not going to be a Liverpool manager, because they'll go, well, he's managed Chelsea. He's won the Champions League with Chelsea. He's always going to have that Chelsea thing. We're Liverpool. We don't want to go to Stamford Bridge and then clap and cheer him because he did a job for them. We want him to be about us. And I want that at Man United. I want somebody to come in like Sir Alex did from Scotland, like Ten Hag has from the Netherlands. I want a manager that's Man United's the project. That's what I want. Look, I know Mourinho won everything with Chelsea, and I'm not contradicting myself. That's part of the reason I don't want Tuchel, because I did want Mourinho, because I put everything aside because I wanted to win the league, and Mourinho won the league at every club he was at. When he actually came to United, I'll be honest, I did always struggle with the Chelsea thing, because he's, first and foremost, he managed Chelsea. He's more of a Chelsea legend than he is a Man United legend. I don't want that. I don't want that. That's my personal reason. I don't know why 82% of you don't want Tuchel. I don't know. It can't be the same reason. Do you think a Bayern-style petition is a good idea, says Ten Hag in. Dennis has gifted 10 memberships. You're an absolute legend. Put your name in the hat for the job, says John. I don't want to be in the hat. I don't want to be in the hat at all. Tuchel is only a perfect choice for these types of players, says Keel Robinson. Well, look, I want to talk next about a very interesting quote that came out yesterday from Postecoglou, who actually, back in November, said something along the lines of, I hear these managers talking about they can't play a certain style of play because they haven't got the players. Just get on with it with what you've got. And of course, that was when everybody was living up Ange's arse. Oh, look at Ange. They wouldn't speak Australian. Look at Ange. He's come into the Premier League and he's playing great football. And how come Ange can do it when he's only been there 3 or 4 months, but Ten Hag's struggling to do it in his second season? And all that nonsense about, oh, yeah. I mean, new manager bounce, anybody? Look at what Solskjaer did for 3 or 4 months. Look at what Spurs are doing now. And look at what Ange is saying now. Completely different. He's not talking about getting on with what he's got anymore because he ain't winning, is he? This is what he said yesterday. We need to change. Change has to happen. I've got to change this squad. I have to. I've got to build a squad I think can play our football. For that to happen, there has to be exits. We're going to play and train a certain way. That's not for everyone. So it's a complete... This is what I mean about football opinion. People watch something in a very enclosed window and want to ignore everything outside it. I've got an opinion and I'm going to look very tunnel visioned at this. And that's what I'm going to do. And at the start of the season, we were awash with, oh, how come Ange is playing such great football with Spurs and he's only been there 3 months? And United are struggling in year 2 with Ten Hag. Well, injury crisis, off-field problems, Glazers haven't sold the club, crap people in the structure and in the business and on the board. They're all factors as to why we're struggling. Also, Ange has been there 5 minutes. New manager bounce. Players want to impress him. Crowd are excited. Let's see what happens in season 2. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute, Mark. Let's actually see what happens in the second half of the season. We don't even need to wait till season 2. Let's wait and see. They fell off. They can't play any good football. Couldn't hit the ocean from a boat. And they don't have any injuries for the last month. So Spurs are suddenly a team that doesn't play good football. So was it just a new manager bounce? Ange is now saying, I need the players who can play this way. I think football is always best when you take in as much information as you can. And when you look at Spurs' season, finishing 5th is very, very good for them. But they're very lucky. They're very, very lucky that United, Newcastle and Chelsea are so decimated all season. Because I tell you what, if Newcastle hadn't had the injuries they've got, or Chelsea, or us, each one of us would have another 6 points. Easily. And that would put you into 5th. And then Spurs would be down to 6th. So I think with Spurs, we're starting to get into that situation now where, yeah, very good start to the season, but they're very lucky that there's 3 or 4 teams that have had so many injuries because they would be down in 7th or 8th. So they're hanging on to that position. So all this talk about, do this, do that. You've got Ange Postecoglou now coming out saying, I need the players to play the way I want to play. I need to get more players in. And this is just so reminiscent and factual about what the situation is for us, what the situation is for Eddie Howe, what the situation is for Pochettino. If you haven't got the players, you're going to struggle. And we don't have the players to do what needs to be done, which is move up that league table, play better football, and compete with the best teams in England. We need this clear out. And this is exactly what INEOS are looking to do at the moment. People keep talking about the manager, but you need to read between the lines. INEOS's focus at the moment is building a structure above the team and the manager, and then phase 2 is player recruitment and removal. That's the thing they've got to do. Because if you sack a manager, it costs you 10 million. And if you recruit a manager, it costs you a few million. But you're still stuck with the same issue. The summer transfer window is not the manager transfer window. You can sack and recruit a manager now, in 3 months' time, in 6 months' time, in a year's time. Sacking the manager is really not that time specific. You do it whenever you bloody want. You can wait 3 months, you can wait 4 months, you can do it tomorrow. It doesn't really matter. But the summer transfer window, that starts in a month and it closes in 4 months. And you have to be ready for... You can't buy players in October. You can't be buying players in May. You've got June, July and August, and that is it. And that is the focus that INEOS have at the moment, because they've got to sell to buy and they've got to build a team that can compete. They can't be, whoever's in charge in a year's time, looking at 6th again. They need that Champions League. 1.25 billion INEOS have spent on this football club. If they want to get that money back, or they want to be successful, or they want to remove the Glazers, success is the only way that will happen. Man United being out of the Champions League and finishing 5th or 6th every year will not remove the Glazers, and it will not give INEOS success. Their focus, and I think this is such an important thing that maybe some people have lost focus on because they want to go granular on Rashford or sacking the manager or who's going to be the next manager or what the stadium's going to be like. INEOS and Sir Jim Radcliffe are on a meter. The sand is pouring out of the timer. They have a job to do, and they need to do this job ASAP. So they cannot be in a situation next year going, well, we'll go again the year after, you know, if we're not in the Champions League. Champions League means money. Money means opportunity to be more successful by utilising those funds. INEOS need money. Man United are in massive debt. They can't pump money in anyway, even if they had it, because financial fair play won't let it. INEOS need to get the revenues up and the wage bill down. INEOS need to get players out and players in. And they need to be doing this yesterday. And they're certainly going to be focusing on it tomorrow. So when people are talking about Tuchel or De Zerbi or Southgate or whatever, it's not really the focus of INEOS at the moment. What they're looking at the moment is playing squad, recruitment, because these are the big things that are going to hit us in now and for the next 3 months. And if we get it wrong, we'll be sat here in September, October, November going, another shit season in front of us. So I don't know whether certain news outlets, journalists, media have picked up on this. Maybe the brain doesn't work that way. But it's very, very clear that this is the focus of INEOS at the moment. Now is the time to be removing players and bringing players in. Because if you snooze on that and focus on something else, then you're going to completely miss the boat. And also, in relation to the summer transfer window, we're coming at this very late. Very, very late. Liverpool, Aston Villa, Manchester City, certainly, Arsenal, they'll have been planning their summer transfer window since January. They'll have been speaking to the players they want. They've got their director of football in place. They'll be ready to go. Man United only brought Jason Wilcox in 2 weeks ago. We don't have a CEO. We don't have a director of football. Like, are we even prepared for this summer the way that we would want to be? Absolutely not. No, we're not. So we're playing catch up as well. And to think that INEOS are sat there, let's see what happens against Crystal Palace and Arsenal. Oh, let's see what happens in the FA Cup final before we make any decisions. They can't afford to do that. Because if you wait until the start of June and decide what you're going to do with the coach, then you'll wait until the beginning of June to also decide what you're going to do with the summer transfer window. Well, you're way too late then. They have to make decisions now about players, because if they don't, it's going to be too late. And it's already late anyway. I don't know how that works. I don't know how this works. I've got no idea how this works. How does this work? Because it's still a possibility that they replace the manager. But you can't wait for a new manager to come in to start talking about who's going to stay and who's going to go. And Wilcox has only just come in as well. And Barada's not there yet. And Dan Ashworth can't say sell him and buy him when he's not even allowed into Carrington. I don't know how this works. It's a bigger conversation. I'm sure there is a solution. But how people talk about what we're going to buy and what we're going to sell, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but who's making the decision on it? The best placed person to do it is Ten Hag, but he might not even be here in a month. So is it Jason Wilcox, who's only been there for a fortnight? It can't be Ashworth because he's not there. You can't make decisions. It's not a game of football manager. He needs to be there. Same with Barada. So who is it who's actually saying, let's buy these players this summer, let's sell these players this summer? And that is the million-dollar question, because I don't know the answer to that. Who's making the decision on who goes and who stays? The best person would be Ten Hag in the absence of Murta. I don't know what Fletcher's up to now, but it is hard to understand who is doing what, and we certainly can't wait for anybody. I mean, as I said last night, the latest with Dan Ashworth is he's probably going to miss all of the summer transfer window. And I'll be very clear on this. If we get Dan Ashworth in the middle of July, I don't care. He's either here for the start of June or get him in, save your money and get him in September. I mean, there's no point in Dan Ashworth coming into United in mid-July. Like, it would almost be counterproductive to bring a director of football in halfway through a transfer window. Like, he may as well not be involved in it. It doesn't make any sense. In a footballing sense, it's like playing a World Cup final for England and Harry Kane's injured. but he's fit enough to play half an hour from the bench with a bit of a sore hamstring. You sort of go, you've missed the game, you're not fully fit, we're better off not playing without you. And that's my, and you know, if Dan Ashworth's not going to be here for the start of June, I'm sort of the mind, well, is there really any point getting him involved in July and August? There really probably isn't. So it's going to be really interesting how that works. I mean, I saw a story, I think it was from Ben Jacobs yesterday, saying that United are looking for £50 million for Jadon Sancho. You'll do well to get that. I mean, I think... How much would you value Jadon Sancho at? I mean, look, based on his performance on Wednesday night, I think some people think he's a £100 million player again. Based on him staying at home playing computer games last autumn, he was probably worth about £5. But I think his value, and it's hard to know what the values are in the current market because it's always driven by supply and demand. But I would say that Sancho's probably somewhere between 40 and £50 million based on his age. You know, Dortmund is a good team. He has been playing reasonably well, but you decrease the value of him in the knowledge that United are desperate to sell. So you might be knocking it down to between 30 and 40. We're certainly not going to get 50 million quid, in my opinion. Duncania says, haven't you been saying Southgate out of England for the last few years? Haven't been so vocal about replacements and solutions, though. Mate, I don't know, like, have you got a job? Girlfriend? Like what is your hate to come on a show like mine and ours and lie? Like, mate, the one thing I never do is sit there and moan about something without a solution. Whether it's VAR, whether it's selling a player, whether it's sacking Southgate, I always have multiple options because that's how I live my life. I don't believe in hypothetically moaning about something and then not hypothetically having a solution. It's the whole point of what we've been doing here for the last 10 years. When I've said Southgate out, I've said I'd take Mourinho. I've said I'd take Tuchel. I've actually said Tuchel to replace Southgate. But to be honest, Duncania, I'd take you. So that's no glowing reference for Tuchel. I've said Eddie Howe. I've said Potter. I've consistently and will... I don't believe in saying sack a manager and then not have a solution yourself. Even though I won't be imparted with that job, I absolutely will always have a solution to something that I say should happen. If I say, let's sell Bruno, then I would be saying, let's bring in Musiala or Wirtz or someone like that. And I'm not saying that, by the way, but I don't like people who go, sack him, sell him, and then you go, who's replacing him? Not my job. Oh, so you're just going to scream and shout abuse to sack him or sell him, but you're not going to come up with a solution? I don't understand that. Hi Mark, first comment. It's my dad's birthday today. Can you make him laugh by saying happy birthday to Jan in Denmark, the biggest bag of cement mercenary in the entire fan base? All the best. Does Jan support Man City then? Super Don. In which case, I can't say anything about Man City because apparently I've been served with a cease and desist order. I mean, oh my God. I know it's the United stand, by the way, but do you not feel that the world is getting worse in relation to how people can put stuff out there and people believe it? I mean, look, don't poke a joker, because the more I see bullshit going out there and people believing it, the more my brain goes, oh, that's a good idea. But I don't want to inflict it on society, but like, people will believe any old shit, and I'm a prankster, so, you know. Hello, Mark. Can you please shout out my two friends, Reagan and George Slater, who celebrate their 23rd birthday today? They both watch the channels religiously and are massive fans of yours. Well, happy birthday to you both, Harold. Seems like there's a lot of birthdays going on today. What are we in May? 9 months ago, October. Clocks go back. Mum and dads go to bed. Wham, bam. There you go. Tuchel, we spoke about that as well. Thank you very much. I have mentioned this as well, the regurgitation of news. I saw it again today. I can't remember who it was who said it, but I tell you what, I don't know whether it's because we talk about Manchester United so much. We're very passionate. I would say you're very intelligent. I didn't say me. You're very intelligent. You're very passionate. You're very loyal. You absolutely live, breathe, and consume Manchester United, and because of that, and I do it as well, you know, someone can say this and you'll go, well, that was 3 months ago. Or someone can talk about that quote. Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. Slow sports news. I suppose that's what I mean. In fact, that's what I'm going to call it from now. Slow sports news. I said it last night on the Friday show. I'd had a bit of red wine, but I feel fine now. We've got to be really careful. As a community, we've got to be really careful because there's a lot of chances out there at the moment. Look, they've got websites, they've got podcasts, they've got channels, they've got aggregated Twitter accounts. They're mainstream outlets, they're journalists. Look, this is not going after anybody. This is just a collective. They're all at it. Regurgitation, repackaging of news and pretending it's yours. Basically, I did this one Christmas. I hadn't bought my sister a Christmas present. Christmas Eve, she puts a present under the tree for me. The shops are shut. I was about 16. She was about 13. So she'd spent her pocket money buying me a Christmas present. I hadn't bought her a Christmas present. The shops were shut. So I went upstairs, went through my cupboards, found the best book I could that looked brand new. Basically, I hadn't read it, and wrapped it up. Christmas Day morning, she opens the book. It was something like the history of Manchester United. And inside the cover, it said, considering this was probably Christmas 2000 or something like that, or maybe 96, it said, Merry Christmas to me. Love, Gran and Grandad, Christmas 1990. Repackaging of old news. And we're seeing this a lot at the moment with United. We're better than this as a community, and it's not really calling it out. I just think we've got to be careful about it because people are trying to claim news as their own. I saw one this morning about Varane leaving Manchester United. I spoke about Varane leaving Manchester United at Christmas. In January. And Romano and other good journalists spoke about Varane leaving a month ago, 2 months ago. Why are we getting headlines and stories about, I've got a feeling Varane's going to go? As reported by us 2 weeks ago, I've got a feeling that Varane's going to go. Like, I'm sort of like... And look, maybe we're just a victim of the fact that we talk every day. We're in depth. We talk about so many different things. Maybe for the light touch fans, it's really important because they've missed it or something. But like Todibo is a player that we have been scouting and wanting to sign for a year. Branthwaite all season. Guehi, keep an eye on him. Months. Elise all season. Varane leaving Man United pretty much since Christmas because we won't renew a contract for him. Like, there are a lot of stories that are getting repackaged that are absolute, nailed-on, well-established stories. Varane is leaving Man United. I said this to you months ago. It's David De Gea all over again. It's removal of a big wage, and it's probably a mistake, but we'll just have to get on with it. Varane leaving Man United won't be a mistake if we bring in 2 centre-backs that can stay fit all season that are going to become world-class. But that is a big hurdle to jump. If Varane goes, you've got to get 2 centre-backs in who are both potentially going to be world-class, who are going to stay fit, both of them, all season. For me, everything's a parameter. The harsh no, I can't stand. It's a bit like people saying sack Ten Hag and then you go, what's your replacement? Not my problem. I can't be doing that. I can't be doing that. It's like, you know, when I used to go around my dad's on a Sunday, Championship Manager on the Amiga, I'd say, can I play Championship Manager on the Amiga? No. And I go, Dad, give me something. Why no? What? No, you've got to go and do some keep-ups in the garden for half an hour and then you can do it. No, wash my car and then you can do it. No, you can come on it in an hour and then you can do it. No, you killed the budgie. You're never playing it again. I need something. I can't be doing with a big fat no. So when people say Varane's going to go, whilst I don't agree with it, I don't control it. So I'll put parameters in place. So if Varane is going, I think we need to bring 2 centre-backs in with the potential for both of them to be world-class, and they need to stay fit all the time. If United do that, I think letting Varane go probably is not a bad idea. But it's the same people saying sell Rashford. If you're going to sell Rashford, you need to achieve 70 to 80 million quid, all of which needs to go back into the squad. And I want to see 2 really good centre-backs, left back, right back, midfielder, striker, winger. I want to see 7 players coming in. I want to see that Rashford money being used for that. If that's the case, let's talk. But if it's just sell Rashford and we bring 3 or 4 players in, it's not worth it. If Casemiro's going, it can't just be because of wage. We need to bring in really good quality holding midfielders. Miles says, in big capital letters, Mark Lee Gunnar promised to beat you and Rory Jennings up about 3 hours yesterday for bullying him. I haven't even ever seen a football channel acting like that. 1, who is that? And 2, bullying him. Mate, look, I haven't watched The Sopranos yet. I haven't finished Fallout yet. You know, I've got a fence at the back of the garden that I need to paint. I haven't got time to watch YouTube football content, let alone stuff of people I don't even know who they are. Like, bullying them for what? That's the first time that person's name's been in my head. What are we talking about? I presume it's just somebody trying to, you know, use my name for clicks again, because this just seems to be, or actually let's grow it big more than that. The United stand is the biggest and the best, and what do people do? They take a pop at the biggest and the best. I don't look. Well done for having a YouTube channel. It's hard work. Respect. You do you. We'll do you. Do us. If I've got something to say about another YouTuber, I'll say it. But that's years ago. I'm not interested in that. I talk about Gary Neville. I talk about Gary Lineker. I talk about Match of the Day. I talk about VAR. I talk about injuries. I'm not interested in AFTV or anything like that. You know, fair play. Crack on and do your own thing. YouTube beef. My God, is it 2017 again? Is that how lower level content creators think they're going to grow? Because that used to work nearly 10 years ago. Come on. People want good conversation, community, and football chat. That's what people want. What about Gio Querez or Isaac as the new striker, says Magnus. Mate, if you've got the money, let's have a chat. It was very interesting what Ten Hag said about Kane. I said this last summer. Remember last summer? Look, make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Join the members club, smash a like, all that jazz. But I remember you might have only just joined. You might have been here with us for years. In fact, I think Christmas is 10 years of United Stand, you know, by the way. We need to sort some stuff out. But look, I digress. I remember talking about this last year. I knew we were signing Rasmus before anybody. Like, I knew it. I knew we were signing Rasmus, and people can lie and say what they like. And, 2 weeks ago, as reported by us 2 weeks ago, Man United are interested in Rasmus. Well, as reported by me before anybody, we're signing Rasmus. I knew that was happening. 100%. But Ten Hag wanted 2 strikers last summer. He wanted a young striker, Rasmus, and he wanted an experienced striker, Kane. Now, where that money was ever coming from, I don't know. And you don't always get plan A and plan A. Like, Rasmus was plan A for the younger striker, Kane was plan A for the older striker. Somehow we went from getting the younger striker and actually that's it. So we've had the young striker with no support all season, learning on the job at Man United. That was never the plan. It was meant to be a senior striker. And when I say senior, you don't need to be like 30. It was just somebody that was not 20, who'd never played in the Premier League before and only had 1 year in first team football. They wanted to bring somebody in. I mean, ideally, I think what happened is Kane went to Bayern and wrongly Murta or Arnold said, you've got Martial and you like Martial. And that's where we went wrong. But look, I don't know who the striker's going to be, but yeah, Thuzy says, all influencers hate each other. It's actually hilarious. Mate, I don't hate anybody. I mean, there was a time when there used to be a lot of beef going on, but we're talking 2016, 17. Like, it's a long time ago. I've grown up with you, a lot of you. I've grown up in this industry look, this industry that we have, whatever people want to call it, didn't exist. We were the, founders of it. The United Stand and a few others. So, of course, there was teething problems at the start. But I actually detect when I was, I did some content with Robbie for the first time in a while, not long ago. I speak to people like the Red Men and other people. And look, everybody's in competition with each other, I suppose, to a certain extent. But there's a lot of respect there. Like, there's a lot of respect for the people who do it. So I don't have any hate for anybody. I just think some people are very bitter and jealous and want a piece of that pie and think that they can get it by dismantling other people. Look, I am not interested in it. I'm not interested in it. There's one person in this whole industry that I really don't have any time for because he wished death on me, and that was it. And that was nearly 10 years ago, to be honest. So I think it actually was 10 years ago this Christmas. So you've got to move on past stuff like that. I'm watching a lot of stuff about the wrestling at the moment and the Montreal screw job with Bret the Hitman Hart and Shawn Michaels, and you can't carry around hatred and bitterness. It's no good for anybody. People, if they want advice on doing content, stop focusing on what other people are doing and unfairness and focus on whatever talent you've got. Man United want Ten Hag to be Bayern Munich. Man United want Ten Hag to be Bayern manager more than Bayern do, says Ian Nichols. I don't think that's true, mate. Scott says United stand the biggest and best. Get up there. Thank you very much, Scott. Thanks for being a member. What if Ten Hag stays? Everyone stays, says Ammon. That's not happening. Ten Hag wants to sell about 10 players. Duncania says, you obviously haven't give your England solutions much thought if you want Mourinho to replace Southgate. Same that you're preaching against Ten Hag outers. Duncania, two super chats. Both of them make no sense. How's about, instead of projecting at somebody that actually gives you opinion, you tell us, because you're clearly Ten Hag out, you've spent £10 on 2 super chats, and in neither of them have you told us who you're replacing Ten Hag with. You've had a pop at me about not having solutions as Southgate replacements, which I always have, and now you're trying to say that because I wanted Mourinho to replace Southgate, my opinion on Ten Hag staying is flawed. Duncania, the whole chat is waiting for your 3rd super chat so you can tell us who you'd replace Ten Hag with, because this is my issue with people like Duncania. Not all Ten Hag outers, but a lot of them. They are making themselves look stupider by the month because it's sack Ten Hag for De Zerbi. Oh, De Zerbi shit. Sack Ten Hag for Nagelsmann. Oh, Nagelsmann signed a contract with Germany. Sack Ten Hag for Zidane. Oh, Zidane doesn't want the job. Sack Ten Hag for Tuchel. Oh, Tuchel's flirting with staying at Bayern now. Like, the whole point of people wanting to stick with Ten Hag is because we want to see real change, we want to see a clear out, but also, there's not much of a market out there, mate. And, out of the frying pan and into the fire isn't good for Man United at a pivotal stage. Is it right for United to be taking risks on other managers at the moment? Tuchel's a risk. He's a massive risk. Are we at the point where we need to take a risk on a manager? Ten Hag might not be that guy, but he might be the guy before the guy. And that's something I've heard many times. We need to get the structure right, the infrastructure, the playing squad. There is so much United need to get right at the moment. And in doing that, is it worth getting it wrong about a manager? What if Ten Hag is stability at a time where INEOS know Ten Hag's going to do the things that they want him to do whilst they get the big structure done, and then in a year's time they'll get rid of him for the right manager? What if INEOS are thinking, we might want to replace Ten Hag, but we don't like this market. There's too many risks there. In a year's time, we'll have a lot more structure in place. Hopefully, we'll be back in the Champions League, and then we can press the... Ten Hag might be the guy before the guy, but I just don't believe sacking the manager at the moment is going to really move the needle forward, because every alternative seems to go really shit or sign a new contract or doesn't want the job either. Is Mount a failure? Mount's one of the 5 things we need to solve on the show at 8 o'clock tonight. Mark, who's more likely to come now, Barkley or Rabiot or Edison? I mean, Barkley's free. Edison's costing you 34 million, and Rabiot may or may not come, dependent on Champions League football. So there we go.